So this is the final panel of BaseCon. It's hard to believe, but I know, it's sad. So this is fighting back in the culture war or something along those lines, right? One thing I wanted to say that is related, I'm going to make this short, but related to the last two panels and maybe to this one as well, is that I feel very strongly that in this culture war, our side has a huge advantage. In fact, we have the advantage, which is that we know what the ending is. And you don't have to be a Christian. I feel like we all you do. You have to be a Christian. I'm gonna convert you right now. I'm a Christian, and this my worldview, my understanding of reality is that, and I think that Rachel and I think that Bill both touched on this, and I talked a little about this with Bill the other day. There is, in the end, only one story, and we are all in our books, hopefully, trying to tell a part of that story, and that is why stories work, because they're part of that story. There's this. We all believe, whether you're Christian or not, there's power in the redemption arc. There's power in good versus evil, good triumphing over evil, and there's power in happy endings, people living happily ever after. And that's I believe and hope that's how that's sewn into the fabric of reality. And much of what the left does is, like, to take somebody like George R.R. Martin, is take a story, say, I want to be the next Tolkien, but I want to, put my own weird little twist on it. I want to do this progressive thing. I want to make everything is worthless and everything's pointless in the end. And he can't finish the story because he's reliant on something that exists prior to him a priori. He cannot create anything. He can only take what is there and twist it. And so the story is good as far as he is able to adhere to the story. But he gets to a point where he can't make himself do that, and we've covered that thoroughly in these panels. And so in the end, they lose. They can't do this, which is why, in my opinion, they're so mad all the time. And we don't need to be mad. We don't need to be angry, because I won't phrase it as our side wins, but we are hopefully, we are doing our best to be on the winning side, the side that wins. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Morgan.
All right. This is going on the offensive in the culture war. And I think I'm just going to start and have everyone do a quick introduction of themselves and how you, either voluntarily or involuntarily, because you don't always choose to be, ended up involved in the culture war.
My name is Blaine Pardoe. I got canceled from BattleTech, so I got drafted into this fight a couple of years ago. And I didn't know we weren't supposed to be on the offensive. I really apologize for that. I've been on the offensive for years. There are people who will tell you I've been offending for years. So, but you're sometimes thrust into this when the cancellation sword is hung over your head. So.
I'm Schantz. I became sufficiently disgusted at what was happening with mutilating children that I decided to strike back and write a book, particularly when I realized how today's situation parallels the time of the Scopes monkey trial, and how Inherit the Wind was kind of a leftist progressive touchstone for pushing their ideology. I realized I could flip the script. I did so. I got canceled for it, and thanks to a whole bunch of really wonderful fans, ended up completely triumphing over that attempted cancellation.
I'm Dan Gainor. I spent half of my career as a journalist, got disgusted with the state of journalism, and went to work criticizing journalists and defending people who got canceled. And along the way, I started writing science fiction, fantasy, and that's really my preference. But I now work for Fox Opinion, editing and writing, and still involved in trying to protect people who get canceled. So please, if that happens, remember, reach out.
My name is Bill Willingham. I guess I entered the cultural war intentionally, at least in its latest incarnation, because this time last year I was just about to do a thing and I couldn't tell you guys about it because it would have let the cat out of the bag too early. But I've since done it, gone to war with DC Comics, my publisher of Fables, in a way that I borrowed the term. Well, now I'm spacing like
Salting the earth.
no no
Scorched earth?
no in Jesus, I'm pardon my friend. Odd warfare, but that's not the term.
Guerrilla.
Asymmetrical. Thank you so much. People that
Yay.
are smarter. So now I can discuss the results of that and some of the interesting side effects of it. But until then, my previous forays into the culture war was just the adage of, write the things you want to read, which in and of itself is a pretty good step to take. Anyway, that's it.
So I'm going to start with the obvious question, since this is going on the offensive in the culture war. What does it mean to you to go on the offensive in the culture war? And we'll start back with Bill.
All right. The background of big publications, I entered my agreement with my eyes open, and knowing that you could just not get published and keep the moral high ground, or play with the devil who's in the game with you. So I went in with my eyes open, but knowing that they were going to take advantage. The thing I found out along the way with Fables and with the properties of other friends and stuff, it is that it is in if the company's big enough, it's in their interests to grab all those rights that we learned about in the evil contracts versus good contracts thing prior to this convention. It's not just a evil grabbing the rights for sake of being evil and grabbing the rights. They get a lot of value out of it. And I will give you an example. I can't make movies. I'm never going to make a movie, whatever like that. So maybe the movie rights to my property are not that important to me. But they're going to publish my book, and they want the movie rights and the toy rights and the this rights and all that, whatever like that, because they're a publicly owned company. And every one of those rights they've gathered up, they get to set a value on. And it's absolute fiction. It is like pulling a number out of it. So let's say my big project, my big product is now worth, $10 million as a movie, and another $5 million for toy tie-in, and another this and a that and a that. And they put that on their public statements, their stockholder statements every year, and that is assets. That's now money they own and control, for the sense of they can borrow against it, they can do that. It's money to them. Now, they don't want to make that movie ever. And the reason being that if they actually make it, and let's say it doesn't do $10 million of value, maybe it's $1 million. There's some movies that apparently get made. Otherwise, I don't know how, but anyway, so they only made $1 million with this movie. To the stockholders, the company just pissed away $9 million because it was a $10 million valuation, and now it's worth $9 million. Where's the $9 million of my money you cost me? They play this game constantly. It is in their interest not to do things that they have control of. And sometimes they do if they know them. But so what I did was look for a way to kind of tweak their nose about that. It's like, okay, if I'm not going to get that $10 million movie made or that $1 million or you're not either, because I'm going to take all that value away from you. I did that by willingly putting fables into the public domain, which, as far as I know, in the way I did it, has never been done before. I consulted many a public domain expert, and every single one of them tried to explain how you can't do that, because all I really know how to do is protect something from going into the public domain, not put something intentionally into the public domain. Every single one of them has since come out when I finally did what I did and said, oh, you did that all wrong and it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? I don't know, but you're not supposed to do this and there's no precedent for this. As a result, okay, so Fables is in the public domain and there's no takebacks. There actually has been takebacks. What was the property that the Thunder Agents got put into the public, fell into the public domain, and then some judge let him take it back out, and some unscrupulous bastard own it. And that happened 2 or 3 times with that property. That property is just the weirdest progression of pirate ownership that's neither here nor there. The point is now everyone owns it, including DC Comics and whatever, but only I have an existing contract with DC Comics that really truncates what I can and cannot do or decide to do with the property. And it also locks DC into certain things of what they can and can't do. Everyone else, whatever you want. I was asked before this, since a year has passed since, what's ever become of this? And there's a lot of interest. Lots of people want to do something with it. And as I should have suspected, everyone wants to be the second one to test this against DC. No one wants to be first. DC has made exactly one pronouncement about this. They have not talked to me since. But their pronouncement was, if you try to republish our books without permission, we will get you. And they will, and that was never part of it. I kept saying, don't, I am not giving you permission to republish the books that were published, because I don't really control that. I'm just saying the new, any Fables, new things. DC stopped talking to me. I think they're scared. I think they have no policy about this. But the weird upshot is that for the first time in our 20-year relationship, they are Johnny on the ball, reporting every royalty statement on time. They cross all the T's and dot all the I's. And it used to be the contract was, yeah, we have a contract and this is what we're supposed to do and this is what you're supposed to do. Well, you're going to be held balls to the wall for everything you're supposed to do. And the stuff we're supposed to do for you in return, we're going to treat those as helpful suggestions in case we feel like it. And then, good luck suing us, because we're us and we know what you are worth because we pay it. Anyway, that is the current state of affairs. It's an ongoing thing. I believe in their lack of having a policy for this, because big companies have to have a policy for anything, or they do not know what to do. This is something like, who would ever do this? There are a few things coming up, and that's the state. Yes. I think I think what Trump got convicted of is imaginary make-em-ups. The analogy or the comparison is the true law is whatever some idiot, asshole, alcoholic, whatever judge decides today it is. Yeah, but anyway, that's my ongoing thing, and I have to tell. I'm a bit of an asshole, and I'm having a great time doing this. Just tweaking their nose, and anyway, that's it.
That's hard to top. I would say, in my opinion, it falls into two categories for things that a lot of us deal with. The first is as creators, trying to create good content. And I don't just mean well written, well executed, well plotted. I mean good, morally good heroes. We had all the talk earlier today I could not begin to do justice to, but create from your faith, create from your beliefs. I hate anti-heroes. I'm so effing sick of anti-heroes. I just want heroes. Okay, oh, he did a good thing. Oh, and then he wasn't conflicted about it. He just did the good thing. Because growing up, my father was ultimately battalion chief in the fire department. My earliest memory of my father is saving someone's life on a fire ground. The fire department family says, they go to fires. And he and another guy grabbed somebody out of underneath a falling chimney. And so that's the people I grew up with. My whole neighborhood was cops and firemen. They were all people who charged toward danger, not ran away from it. So that's the people I try to write about. So that's point one. Point two, though, is all for one and one for all. And I don't just mean the base con people, but I certainly do mean the base con people. We have to help one another. I think several people here have been very helpful to me. I try to be helpful as well. Help them if they're attacked, help them to promote their books, retweet them, share, comment, help them out. Vote with your wallet if you can. If you can't, still do those things, because that is how we defeat them. We have to be unified. They want to divide us. You look at across the country, the left, the media, they want to divide. They've been doing it for 50 years in this country, easy. They just keep breaking you into subsets. Oh, well, you're not this group, you're this group, and you two don't get along. Why? Get along, work together, help other creatives. If you're good at this thing and you see somebody who's struggling with it, help them. All for one, one for frickin' all.
Amen. Yeah, I can only echo that. I will add that as you go in to uphold the good, the beautiful, the true in your work, don't be afraid to do so. But certainly, war game it out, plan carefully, anticipate what are the kinds of things people might do to get you canceled or to interfere with your plans. And make sure you have your contingency plans in place to know what you're going to do if your crowdfunder is canceled, or if Amazon decides they don't want to carry your books anymore. Think ahead. It's a game of chess, and you need to think a few moves ahead, understand what kind of moves the opposition might make, and plan accordingly.
Ditto. No, for those of you who follow me, this week's actually I have a couple of announcements about what's going on with me. One which I had planned to announce prior to coming here anyway. I was waiting for the confirmation that Topps had been served. Topps hasn't paid me since I've been canceled. Topps, the baseball card company, owns the rights to Baltec, and they owe me for royalties now for 2 years. So I have filed lawsuit against them. They did respond while I was here at the convention and said, you filed to the wrong people, you have to file to these people. So I know they've gotten served. They'll get served again later this week. But then on top of that, in the middle of me trying to go through that, just get paid what I'm owed, because they're waging warfare on me basically by withholding what they owe. Catalyst Games re-released an anthology that I was in, and on Amazon they omitted my name as the only author of the 12 authors that contributed stories. I was the only one omitted completely. Now my name is in the book. They didn't, completely memory hole me. And the way I kind of, I don't want to call it waging warfare, but I called them out on it. I put out a blog post and I circulated. And they immediately reacted by saying, well, you've been saying bad things about us for 2 years. Well, yeah, you canceled me, assholes. If you're going to cancel somebody, you got to expect something back. But this is the tactics of the left. They only react to the reaction. They don't see their role in doing this. So yeah, I've called them out on that, and the fans have been very supportive of it. And all I'm saying is, if you're going to promote my stuff, on the world's largest marketplace, perhaps you should put my name on it. Especially since the story is still in that anthology. These are the tactics that these guys do, and I don't call it asymmetrical warfare. I call it monkey warfare. It's not quite guerrilla warfare. It's just annoyance.
I'll
If they
take
want to
that.
play monkey warfare, I'm a full-time author. I've got time on my hands, and I will do this as much as I need to in order to get what I want. And I'm going to be very public about it. And I think that's the one thing that I recommend with people is don't be quiet. They want you to be quiet. I'm not going to do that. If they mess with me, I mess back, and I'm very vocal about it. So that's my approach.
Some of these responses lead into a couple other questions. I think you're right with the don't be quiet about it, but and I know Dan does a lot of work with people who have gotten canceled. Is how do you not be quiet about it and get it out to everybody when like the mainstream media and everything is just going to ignore that?
Well, first of all, I don't rely on the mainstream media to do anything. Because they're not in the game to talk about cancel culture. When was the last time you heard a story in the mainstream media about cancel culture? You only hear about it on Twitter, you hear about it on Facebook, you hear about it through social media. I don't try to wage the war or wage my side of this fight anywhere else but on social media. That's the only way to do it. There's plenty of podcasters and webcasters out there who are dying to talk about this stuff, but the mainstream media has stopped talking about cancel culture and the culture warfare. They don't want to talk about it. And you'll even hear liberals say things like, we're getting tired of hearing about it. Well, then stop doing it. But they're tired of hearing us say to them, you're being a jerk. They don't want to hear that. And I think, the way to do it without dealing with the mainstream media is to really work through the channels of social media. There's plenty of ways that gets picked up.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. They take great offense at anyone's attempt to play the victim because you're not a real victim like the oppressed people that they favor. Carl, did you have a question?
Oh, I totally am aware of it. I'm just pissed that they're making me go through that effort. It was a very deliberate omission. So to me, I will be doing that. That's not the problem. The problem is that they went out of their way to omit me. Sorry.
Well, yes, don't be quiet about it. obviously that's a given. Don't assume that the conservative media is going to ride to the rescue when they've never heard of you before. Don't assume reporters are going to suddenly care if you don't follow that reporter. Build a rapport, just like you're trying to promote your book and you're trying to make friends here, and you're going to start following people from here on whatever social media apps you use. Pick reporters at the whole variety of conservative outlets, from Newsbusters, where I used to work, to Fox, to Daily Caller, Daily Wire, Breitbart, etc. Follow some people, develop, retweet them, because guess what? They're authors, just like all of the people here. And so they want to be shared. So build a rapport. If you see something, tip them to other stores if you know somebody else getting censored. So when you come knocking at the door asking for help, you are someone they know, not someone who's just asking for help because that's all you care about is your little thing. So you gotta build up to it. And yes, I will help anybody. Don't just, write a blog post. Send out a press release. Oh, this organization did this. What are you doing about it? I've contacted whatever organizations I belong to, trying to strike back. You want to be as active as possible. I know there was some talk, Rob, and while we were talking about, does our side need a science fiction writers, fantasy writers association of some sort? I know there's been various attempts at this, but yes, we do. We need an organization that can speak with one voice, because then that's an organization that gets quoted. Yes, you only see, for the media, when they respond, you only see, oh, conservatives seize, like, oh my God, conservatives respond to, having their own people murdered in the streets. How dare they respond? So we need to be proactive and play their game. And because that's the only game in town. Even conservative media emulates traditional media. It tries to get both sides. It tries to get a quote so they'll get a quote from the other side. So make sure your facts are right. Make sure if you're going to give a one sentence quote, don't just do it, pick something out of the air. Make it sing. Make it something that they're going to want to use on TV. Marketing 101, being memorable. And like I said, I don't care if it takes a lot of my free time. I will absolutely help anybody who's in this. I'm on Twitter. It's got an email connected to it. Please, I just don't want to see people suffer, because it so pisses me off.
I guess I mostly agree. Where I differ is at one point early on in my career, one of the inkers working on my book had some problems with the publisher, Kamiko, who were a bunch of guys in Pennsylvania. And so I went to go fight the fight with them, since I was the big name on the book. I had the guerrilla power, and he whatever. And I came and I fought a good fight, and it was soaring. It was every Captain Kirk speech you've ever heard. And then they asked to talk to Rich. We were standing firm with each other. It's like, we're going to get our way. And he went and talked to him in private. They came down 10 minutes later and said, we've resolved it, thanks. And it's like, oh, well, don't I look like a fool? So keep in mind that your allies and your battles come at a cost when you lose them, and you won't always lose them just because you weren't in the right or whatever, but that your coalition may have fallen apart. If you dabble in every good cause that comes down the pike, you risk becoming a dilettante. A little bit here, a little bit there, you spread yourself thin. I would say choose your battles and fight them valiantly and voraciously. With the provision, the rules I set for myself are these. And when I knew the fight was coming with DC, I warned them that there's a thing coming. You're not going to be ready for it because you can't imagine what's happening. But I assure you that when it happens, it is going to be both legal and ethical. And that's very important to me. Now, the left has no standards. They hold themselves to no standards. And lately, they've been open and proud of the fact they hold themselves to no standards. But they hold you to every single standard you can imagine, and some you can't imagine. It's like the people that you know are atheists that will glibly tell you Jesus wouldn't do this and he wouldn't do this, and so you're not a Christian. It's like, God, they're just dicks about it entirely. But within those parameters of it's legal and ethical, I am being and choose to be as obnoxious as I possibly can, and also not to play by their rules. And that's where I most differ. If I can find a different set of rules to play by, which I did it once. I can't use that gambit again, but you know, there's still time to figure a few other things out. The reason I took on this fight was because they were they had sold Fable's gaming rights or whatever, and the script for this game was the most ridiculous woke piece of shit I've ever seen. And their claim was, as the owner, I had no recourse. They could do whatever they want with the property that they've licensed from me, and all that. They had no responsibility to be true to the property and not you know, not let this other company do anything it wants. To which I disagree, because there is some precedent for not purposely devaluing property. The first time they killed Robin, everyone remember that? There was a phone-in thing. If you want Robin dead, say dead. If you that worked wildly. It brought the entire New York phone exchange down for a long time with people coming in. What they didn't do is get the permission from the Warner upper-ups, who it surprised them that you just killed Robin. We cannot legally dispose of valuable assets. We are a publicly traded company. You just broke, you got us in lots and lots of potential trouble. And they gave them, like, you know, you have 14 days to reintroduce Robin type of thing. That's the behind the scenes for that whole, why is there multiple Robin? But see, they cannot purposefully devalue their valuable assets. And that's kind of the next weapon that I'm using. And I don't fear giving that away, because they're idiots and they will not be prepared either for this.
And just one little point. Don't assume if you get banned or suspended or something like, don't immediately assume it's because, you know, you're conservative. It's because somebody's out to get you. All the social media companies are, you know, have technology that is beyond the staff, and things happen, or sometimes you retweet something that actually was wrong, but you didn't know it, or it got flagged for some other reason. There are lots of reasons. Don't assume it's, you know, immediately, you know, do some checking. It may be because of incompetence. It may be because of bias. You know, don't go 0 to 60, you know, freaking out.
One thing I want to add in this context, something very useful I found, is most at least the traditional publisher that I dealt with for my traditionally published book, which admittedly was an antenna textbook, so it might not be entirely relevant to the science fiction fantasy crowd, but they were more than happy to let me negotiate a return of rights. They're really only interested in having the the right to publish the book for a few years, and they were happy to go with a non-exclusive right afterwards, returning the rights to me to publish it. So, as you're negotiating a contract with a trad publisher, don't just sign whatever they shove underneath your nose, because it's going to be completely one-sided in every way their most creative lawyers have been able to figure out. You do have the option to push back and try to negotiate some different terms, including being very clear on how you can claw back your rights and the circumstances under which you can do so.
So every couple of months, there's a kerfluffle on Twitter around the phrase, "Where are all the conservative creators?" It happens like clockwork, and there's sort of a sense amongst conservative creators that the conservative media does not do anything to support or push or bring in anything but conservative creators that are like attached to them. So like writers for, I don't know any direct companies, but is there a way to fight the culture fight by trying to either circumvent the big conservative news and websites and everything to get your name out there, or to try and actually bring them into it where they're bringing smaller creators in?
Part of it is to be too stupid not to know the things you shouldn't be doing. And what I mean by that is, you've heard of an obscure title called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The first one of those that came out, no one knew them from Adam, and they were just two friends that got together. Let's do a comic that kind of spoofs Frank Miller's stuff. We're not sure what to do, so let's print up a bunch. We're not sure what to do. Let's send out a bunch. And they sent it out. I was barely in the comics business, and I got a copy of the first one with a little note like, "What do you think we should do with this?" And everyone knows what happened to him. But before it took off, because they didn't know anything about the comics industry and what should be done and what shouldn't be done, they did a lot of stupid things. Like, for example, they were the very first comic publication, to send a review copy to the Wall Street Journal. Because they didn't know enough to know that's dumb and you shouldn't do it. Well, the Wall Street Journal received this. The guy that received it said, "We just got sent this for review and we got no policy. What do we do?" And his editor said, "I don't know, review it." And they did. So be prepared to try stupid things that no one else has done is one of the things. And that's why I say, create your own rules to play by. Now, obviously, after that, everyone and his uncle sent review copies to the Wall Street Journal and various other places. But by then, they'd had a policy in place. So this was cute once, but no, we don't do that. So you have to be agile and I guess that's my point is, be prepared to do the silly thing.
And also, don't just rely on institutions, rely on people. There are a lot of social media people who might be interested in your book or have done something related. Be aggressive. Some of us have seen a person we know being super aggressive promoting her husband's work on Twitter. But she's done a really good job at it because she just is, Yes, exactly. Relentless is and she's very engaging, engaging with a lot of people in a lot of different communities. That works. Find people who might like it. Reach out to social media people, or try the podcast route. Some people are who are prominent, like our kind of books. Reach out to them, and make yourself available. Reach out to Tim Pool, or anybody you might if you're doing a younger audience, do that. If you've got religious books, reach out to different religious people. If you're pushing a good message, there are a lot of people who have different audiences. Churches around the country, that's an audience that particularly a lot of the stuff that conservative creatives do, they might be open to. We've seen movies released through churches. Why not books? And so, think through what other ways you can do it, and don't be like, well, I'm afraid to ask that person something. I used to work with a guy, Dan Kennedy. He was a marketing expert. There were tons of books at big marketing seminars around the country. And he said, never be afraid to ask someone for help. And he listed all these like famous celebrities he reached out to, like, could you help me with this? They all said yes, all of them. And now we're in a much more adversarial time. But if you're just writing a book and it's got a good message, or just heroes or faith, there are a lot of people who might read that book. If you get one famous person puts their name on that book, might be enough to push you over the top. And that includes famous other authors.
I agree. Like the
You agree
potential.
with me this time?
Yes, I am for once. And the shirt. I like the shirt, as I said. The potential ally in organized churches and church groups and church councils and such has a double benefit. It might work, might not. But do any of the enemy, would they ever, in their wildest dreams, think of promoting through the church as one of their avenues for? No, it would never occur to them. And I think their brain would blow up if the thought did pass through their head.
Yeah, and I mean, buy ads in the BaseCon program, buy ads in the church program. Be careful about this. We all went through the marketing seminar. Don't dilute your core audience on Amazon instantly, because it screws up the Amazon algorithm. But don't be afraid to do that after a little bit to try to boost your sales. Be aggressive, be creative.
You also have to understand the media ecosystem and how they get clicks. An advertisement or an article saying, look at the latest outrageous thing Star Wars has done, is going to get a lot more clicks than, there's this really cool author you've never heard of who's written a good book. That's not going to get much attention. So they're going to go with the former instead of the latter. So what you have to do is come up with clever ways to make yourself part of the story. Look at this horrible thing Star Wars did. Cool author of cool book, said this zingy thing about what Star Wars did. You have to try to work your way in kind of secondhand into the narrative that they want to go with their outrage journalism on the huge touchstones that will generate lots of clicks.
You're not going to get on Fox News because they only promote their own books. Did anybody know that, Steve Doocy did cookbooks? Come on, raise your hands. Because every time he does one, they do 4 slots of him cooking on the show. Likewise, they have James Patterson on and they only promote their own internal books. The Tim Pool thing is a definite thing. I had 20 copies of my book Blue Dawn that I mailed out. One was to Tim Pool. Tim did a thing where he said, I'm going to open all the mail I've gotten online. And my book was there. And he goes, oh, Blue Dawn, this looks really good. I immediately that night got 4 podcasters reach out to me who watched Tim Pool and said, hey, can you come on our show and talk about your book? So that does work It's a fluke. But the one thing that I recommend is if you're conservative, there are a number of online conservative websites that are dying for editorials and articles. American Thinker, American Greatness. There's a whole long list of them. They're looking for 800-word articles about what do you think about Trump's chances of win, or whatever your opinion is. But they give you at the bottom of that 800 words in a complete paragraph that you can hyperlink to your books to say this article is written by Blaine Pardoe. He's the author of Blue Dot and this book and this book and this book and this book. And it's free. Now you don't make any money doing it, but you put those articles out, and what I found is those often get aggregated to other websites. So when I write for American Thinker, it shows up and I will get probably 12, 13,000 people read that editorial. Within the week, though, it has popped up on the Illinois and Indiana and whatever Republican forum. They take that article, repost it. And so your article is now propagating out to tens of thousands of people. And at the bottom, you get your own free plug to say, well, here's the books I'm writing or have written, and here's how you click to get to them on Amazon. I get a hit every single time. I may only sell a couple of free books, but for 800 words, it's super simple. And I'm telling everybody this, knowing that you're all going to go out and do it. It's not competitive, okay? It's not like, oh, we're all going to be vying for that spot. They're dying for people to write in and give them information, give them articles that they can do. So it's not a competitive thing. We're all able to cooperate and do this together.
All right, we're almost at time, so I'm going to ask one more question for us to finish up on, and that is, what would you like to see other people, maybe in particular people who don't have a big platform, do as their part in the culture war?
Yeah, what you got to do is support the people in this room and support your fellow conservatives. The biggest thing you can do to support them is buy their books, post on your social media that you read their books and like their books, give them an Amazon review. It's really that simple. If everybody in this room today went out and said, we're all going to buy Bob's book, all of us are going to buy it, and in a week we're all going to post a review, even if the review is good book, 5 stars. If you did that right now, that book would be a bestseller in its category. If everybody in this room did. Matter of fact, I would challenge it next year. We ought to do just that. Pick 3 or 4 people, everybody in the room buy the Kindle version of the book, everybody post the review. It's an instant bestseller. And it's simple, and you get a book out of the deal. Wow, awesome stuff. So I think that there's things that we can do that we don't do. And we don't do it for whatever reason. We never take the time to do it, etc. So
Yeah, I definitely support that idea. I found my advice would be to spend about as much time boosting and supporting other authors as you do trying to promote your own books, because I found that I kind of stumbled into doing the based book sale, but that's been really helpful for my sales too, because my books are in that sale too, and I'm getting some good traction and good sales from being in there, and from all the other authors whose books I have listed are promoting it, and in promoting the sale in general in their own books, they're promoting my books. So it's really a win-win for everyone who's involved in it. So finding ways to get out and help your fellow author as a reader, leave a review. I mean, it's very easy to do. I know I don't do it as much as I should, but make a point of finding little things you can do like that to try to help out the community.
And speaking of the community, and this, because he didn't ask me to do this, support BaseCon, support Rob, support his books operation. Every person here, try to bring somebody else next year. Somebody legit, somebody somebody you trust.
Yeah.
I see a worried expression from someone who wanted to limit himself to about maybe 25% growth.
Right, but if I say that, not everybody will. But if you try, and you bring a few more people, this grows. The author community grows. Those of you who are talking about forming writer groups, if you want to form a writer group, form a writer group. Don't just be passive about it. Charity begins at home. This is, a small group. Help here first.
I really do like something like the book of the week or book of the month club, where we all buy a book and review it and kind of review bomb a particular book. I think
we probably get caught doing that.
Oh, you got caught? Ah.
Yeah. No, but if we all agreed, like, hey, we're gonna review, Hans's book, and yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
Ron.
Yeah, one of the Wise of Heart reviews that I use in my advertising is a 4-star review, and I think it's the best written 4-star. It's one of the best written reviews, period, I've had. I'm glad to have it. A lot of times if I'm reviewing a book and I think, well, it's not quite a 5-star book, I'd give it 4.5. I take a look at the review, the current reviews it has. If it's currently at 4 and I think it should be a 4.5, I'll give it the 5-star. If it's currently at 5 and I think it should be more like 4.5, I'll give it the 4-star. But then I'm kind of mathematical that way.
We know this.
Do you have anything to add, Bill, about what you wish people would do?
Yes. And I've just added to it. I hate stars. I hate numerical based reviews. Use language, for God's sakes. I mean, back in the day we used to use language to describe whether or not we liked a book. But that's neither here nor there. In the fights that come, whether we're all one warrior band together, or if we're fighting little guerrilla actions individually, I joke about I like to be a dick about things, but don't be a complete dick, in the sense of one of the ways to gauge whether or not you're in it for the wrong reasons or doing it badly is, are are you in this for self-promotion? I hate like shameless self-promoters. We had a discussion about it. I don't, we have to self-promote, but have that sense of shame. We know a few, they've been mentioned, sometimes politely referred to here this weekend, that are clearly in it only for the glory of me being me. Not me, but, you know, that person. And it always turns out bad and always leaves a bad taste in your mouth. There are certain people that are right of center and right in every way that I would not work with or help out on a bet just because they are terrible, terrible people. And they're on both sides of the aisle. We know, you know, certain superstar writers who every book is a bestseller because every member of Dianetics buys it, who would have young ladies go up and present themselves to him as an offer early in his career. So God, you know, I'm kind of a trollish looking fellow, and he was, I don't know if I could have resisted that kind of road to corruption, but the self-promotion along those lines is corrupting, and it ruins everything else you're trying to do. So don't do that. One other thing to keep in mind is if, like me, you can't afford to sue, maybe you can afford to be sued. I am not encouraging you to do the thing. I'm looking forward to it, but because I think not only could, if not win, at least cause a lot of something, and I even think I could do it without paying $1. But that's just a challenge for me. But what I'm saying is tweak those noses of the enemy. They can't stand it. They cannot stand mockery. They cannot. Well, they don't understand humor, and they don't understand the ethics that they think they're imposing upon you. They're incapable of it, and they don't understand that those are handicaps for them. So that's close to what advice I have.
And one thing, many of the people here are writing not just books, but writing from their faith. Okay, if you're writing from your faith, then don't be surprised when you're attacked for it. You know, you're not fighting a cultural war. You're fighting a religious war. And, you know, your enemies are not just here. You know, and so don't be surprised. Don't, you know, take that and like, oh, I'm not going to fight this fight. No, don't. That's the absolute wrong thing. That means you're hitting the right target.
All right. I'm sure Rob has some closing comments for the convention.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, panelists. I noticed as I was listening to you guys talk that it's kind of cool that I had this wasn't on purpose, but the people that I had selected for the fighting back in the culture war panel are all people. They were all talking about, you know, helping out each other and all for one and one for all. And these people in particular have all in different ways been extremely helpful to me, to this con, and to the community. And we've got, I think, three lifetime members of this group, BaseCon members. 2 of them are members of the Base Science Fiction and Fantasy Book Club, and like Blaine had me personally on his podcast a few weeks ago, talking about my Iron Dragon books, which was fantastic, and he promotes other authors all the time. So they're all doing exactly, they're walking the walk and not just talking about it, and I'd love to see more of that.